Oh, Robyn's going to
Okay.
watch. Yeah, she's intrigued by the experience. Yeah, no, Robyn will watch it.
Do you think she would go off and do this?
I wouldn't ever let Robyn do this. I would never want to put her through this. And she's a tender person. She's a great mother, but she's not going to be focused on her fitness and trying to do crazy. I mean, like,
Hi, besties. Welcome back to my channel. Yesterday, Kody Brown was on the red carpet, apparently, for Special Forces. Haven't seen that man literally on a red carpet ever, standing next to Johnny Manziel, who was defending Kody because apparently everyone in the cast hated Kody, but Johnny, I guess. I don't know. And Kody threw shade at his wife. Do you remember during the tell-all when Robyn was being really pretentious and she was yelling about Kody weight shaming or like, I've seen him stick around through stretch marks and weight gain and not doing things intimately because they're not like that. It's not who they are. And or debt because she had a lot of debt. And she acted like he was benevolent, right? For sticking around with these women, for having the audacity to gain weight. And everyone was like, wow, Robyn, you're shaming people, weight shaming. And then Kody's on the red carpet asked if any of the sister wives are going to watch Special Forces. And he says he doesn't think any of them are going to watch. Christine said she might watch just to laugh at him because she thinks he's ridiculous. And then they asked, well, is Robyn going to watch? And he says, oh, yeah, she's so intrigued. And then, do you think Robyn would ever do this? Oh, no, I won't let her. You won't let her? What? What do you mean you won't let her? She's a grown-ass woman. Shouldn't she be able to do whatever she wants? Kody Brown won't let his wife do it. And then he qualifies it by calling her a tender woman, but then throws shade at her because he says she's a mom and she's not really thinking about and taking care of her fitness. What? He was like, he's weight shaming his wife, saying that she's not taking care of her fitness. Kody throwing shade at the only woman that he has left, the one that was his diesel jeans model. Now she's a wife that doesn't take care of her fitness and he has no one else to go after. So he's going to start attacking Robyn. Unbelievable. He also addressed that there were people on the cast that didn't like him and he blamed it on being Gen X. And then he said that he has a big mouth and he has a way of doing things and not everybody liked that. And it's the weirdest explanation. You don't have to be Gen X. He was acting like because he was older and some of these people could be his children, that's why they didn't like him. And then Johnny Manziel had to try to defend him. It was very uncomfortable. But this is what Kody said about people not liking him.
Have a big mouth. and I was like, I think of it as being very generous. Other people think about it being bossy. So it's like, hey, listen, can you pick that up and help me? And it's like a little demanding. It came across wrong. I don't know. It's funny that I think I'm friendly.
It sounds like when Kody was in this event, he had this expectation that he could tell people what to do and they would just follow him. He says that that's called bossy, but he would demand people do things and then they wouldn't do it. And so he would get upset. Brianna, who is a person that's on TikTok and she was a podcaster, and she dated this guy, that Zach Brown. Well, anyway, she mentioned that Kody was just very selfish and not a team player. And when they would have to do events and carry big, heavy bags and deal with, 300-pound bags or do something as a group, he only cared about what he was doing. He didn't think about what anyone else needed. And so she said that they got into it quite a bit and he rubbed her the wrong way a lot. And apparently, the guy that was interviewing them from Entertainment Tonight mentioned that several of the cast members didn't like him, and he was so dumbfounded and embarrassed, and he was trying so hard to, like, hold it together, and Johnny Manziel's trying not to laugh, and he can tell that nobody likes him. And then on Access Hollywood, while he's being interviewed, he says that he bonded the most with Mark Estes, and he had a special experience with Johnny Manziel. And then he couldn't name anyone else on the cast that he really got along with or bonded with. And then he's like, "Oh, we're going to all be friends forever." What? Kody, everyone hates you. Literally. Everywhere he goes, everyone hates him.
No, I wish. Like, Kody Brown snuck in a friggin' trash bag full of stuff. I'm like, I have 3 pairs of underwear, like they said. No shampoo, no conditioner. It was awful. He's definitely butted heads. He's not very good working in teams. He's very much I. And there was a lot of challenges where you have to work together and go ahead if we're in the back, like carrying a 300-pound man. So yeah, we just butted heads, but he definitely gave it his all, and it was fun. Like, I don't know, it was fun working with him.
Well, there you go. Kody is a selfish man that doesn't want to work in a team. We already knew that. And I have no doubt that he has zero respect for women. So I imagine there was quite a bit of issues with Kody. And he's so dramatic and has to make everything about himself. And he has such a big personality. So, yeah, that's Kody on the red carpet. I was most shocked by him saying that he wasn't going to let Robyn be on a show because she's a tender person and she doesn't really, she's a mom and doesn't take care of her fitness. Kody hasn't changed. And, Christine has been doing interviews for her book and has talked a lot about marrying Kody and talking about, their wedding day and how embarrassing it was because he was so uninterested or disinterested in her. And their first kiss, she said, was humiliating. She told that to the New York Times, actually. She said that her first kiss with him was humiliating because it was such a quick peck. It was obvious to everyone around in that watched that he just wasn't really into her. And she was horrified by it because she didn't realize the extent of his lack of interest in her until then. And then her whole family witnessed it. And so they were really concerned for her right off the bat. And, the New York Times did a podcast with Christine. And I will say that the person that interviewed her did a good job of trying to make her dig a little bit deeper about her feelings. And when she would ask a question and Christine would talk about something being hard and she would sort of just like gloss over it and just be positive through it, the person that interviewed her would say, like, wait a minute, let's pause, let's go back. Let's talk about what you just said because that sounds really hard. That sounds like a really awful feeling. And in that podcast, she was talking specifically about when she decided to leave Kody and why she decided to leave Kody and why the betrayal of Isabel's surgery sort of put an anger or a rage in her because of his complete lack of interest or care for her children. And that she wasn't going to be with someone that would so disregard her children and their needs and be so obvious about it and not even try to hide it anymore. And that wasn't okay for her. That was like the breaking point was when he said that I can't leave my family. And then what heartbreak that caused Isabel, because that's when she realized we're not his family and I need to go. That was the moment, she said, when she had to leave.
Exactly. I thought we were his family too. So I'm like, well, if we're not his family, so clear when his daughter's having a back surgery that he can't leave his family, then we're not. I realized at that point that there was no hope that I would ever have a better marriage. It's insulting. You cannot be a dad and say that to your daughter. And I will not be married to a man who treats my daughter and his children like they don't matter.
Something I've noticed about Christine is that because of the way that she grew up and they were always taught to be happy and she wanted to be the peacemaker and keep everyone mediated and keep things going great. And she wanted to be the person that was everything to everyone, that she never spent a lot of time thinking about what she needed or what she wanted. She didn't really recognize that she could think about what she needed and what she wanted because of the way that they train these girls, that it's really not about them, that it's about their greater family. Their purpose is not to be a wife. It's to be, working on your jealousy, not to be angry, be okay with sharing. Like every challenge they're supposed to go through is to tolerate plural marriage. And then they say, if you can get through this, then you're going to go to heaven. And she just develops this like keep sweet attitude that still permeates to this day with her. Right. And I don't think you're going to break that in 4 years. This is who she was for such a long time, that unless you have someone that interviews that will go beyond the first answer, you rarely get to the actual feeling and the anger that she feels, right? And why I liked this podcast was that when she would say something that sounded terrible about what Kody had done, and there was numerous times in this interview, and I'll link the interview for you in the bottom. There were numerous times that the person interviewing her heard her say something really hard and just sort of gloss over it, not really acknowledge how hard it was or how bad it was, or maybe not even recognize how bad it was that she was saying what she was saying. Like when she was discussing her wedding day and talking about this kiss and how she felt about how Kody showed up. And the woman that interviewed her, Anna, would not allow her to just simply skate by. She wanted her to dive deeper. Like, well, what do you mean that you felt like this? I want to understand more, like why this was so traumatic for you. And I really liked the way that they framed it so that Christine, who's been so trained to just say things at a surface level, was forced to go a little bit deeper. And I feel like that's where you really get her feelings. And I think she just has had to suppress those feelings for so long that when you finally ask the second tier and third tier question, that's where she goes deep, right? And she says, it was humiliating because my family was able to see that Kody wasn't attracted to me and everyone around us knew, and it was just awful for me. I was so embarrassed that this was happening. And instead of listening to that inside of me that like this isn't a good thing, I just put on this face of, well, I'm just going to push through and maybe it'll get better, right? And so she's so trained to, even if something was bad, to find something positive in it. But it sounds like there was just like this moment where she snapped, right? And she was done. And I have to say that it sounds like there were many times in their marriage where she was almost done. And even the woman, Anna, that interviewed her, she would say things to Christine like, well, it sounds like you had a good experience, but it also sounds like you didn't because you left, right? It can't all be great if you left. There couldn't have been all greatness in polygamy if you left. If it would have been as great as you said it was, you would have stayed, right? And I think unless she's pushed, her programming tells her that she just needs to always be sweet. And I think as she gets further out and she's willing to do some of these harder interviews, it'll challenge her to think a little bit more critically, because when she spoke there about what he did to Isabel and how in that moment she realized that if her husband was going to treat her kids like they didn't matter, like they didn't exist, she wasn't going to be there because that she wouldn't tolerate her children being treated that way. That's a raw, powerful moment and a raw, powerful thing to say, right? Like any mom can identify with that inherent instinctual mama bear that we have to protect our children and make sure that our children are taken care of and loved. And when they're not doing what we need to do for our kids, even if it's hard for us. And so even in her leaving, it's really not about her, it's about her kids. And that again is just such a wild sort of moment, right? She's even in her leaving, she's leaving because she doesn't want her kids to be treated that way. It's almost like she's always the last one that she thinks about. There's a strange dichotomy to it, though, because at the same time, she says that's the last point. She also says the final straw is when he says he doesn't want to be intimate with her anymore. And even in her book, she sort of laments that maybe if things hadn't been like if he hadn't withdrawn from her and if he hadn't taken away his affection from her, she might have still stayed, which then makes me answer and question, okay, so did you leave for the kids or did you leave for you, or was it a combination of both? Maybe it was a combination of both. Maybe there wasn't a final straw. Sometimes people say that they want that finality. They want people to have like that final moment when they knew, but maybe it was just years and years and years of neglect and abuse that she just got tired of living through, right? And I like this framing of it better because it puts it more like she was wanting to protect her children. Because on the other side, if she would have stayed, if he wouldn't have withdrawn his affection, he still would have treated her kids like crap, right? So this way, it's less about her and not wanting to hurt her kids. And it's more about, I'm going to protect them than it is. A lot of people have said for years that if Christine still would have gotten sex and Kody still would have loved her, she still would have stayed with him and still been okay with him treating her kids like crap. And the way this is framed, it doesn't sound like she would have. So there's that. And then there was another point in the same interview where she got very candid about polygamy. And she finally said what we've all been saying, but that she really refuses to say because she's still so programmed to always protect polygamy.
I have family members that live it, and some are very successful, and I have friends that are successful with it. The wives all feel like they're heard and they have good relationships with their husbands, and I think it's hard. I think that it's challenging. I think that you really need to have a voice, and you really need to state, have your interests heard as well. But I think if people are going to choose whatever they want to choose, I do think it is hard. I haven't seen a lot of plural families that are happy. That is for sure.
I think there's one thing she just said there is she's never seen many families in polygamy that are happy. She knows very few families that are happy. Okay. Women should have a voice. They should be able to choose. She says she has friends that are successful. They feel like they have a voice. But here is the truth. If they've never done or lived any other way, they don't know if they're not happy. There's a reason why their cult keeps them so insulated and indoctrinated and fed with this BS that you should accept pain and endure to the end and be dealt massive amounts of abuse, is because you're going to get to heaven and be in the celestial kingdom, which in the same interview, Christine said made her feel like she was better than people, especially like when her mom left. She felt like when her mom left, she had to choose if she was going to go to hell with her mom or if she's going to stay with her family and go to the celestial kingdom. And then knowing she was going to go to the celestial kingdom made her feel better than people. And they preface all of this pain and abuse, and success is not about happiness. It's about endurance and rubbing off all of the bad. And so they're not really happy. They don't even know that they're not happy. It's ignorance. It's brainwashing. It's unless they step outside of it, they'll never know the possibility of what else there is. And the way that you stop them from not stepping outside of it is controlling what they watch and where they go and who they speak to and what they listen to and, what kind of schools they go to, what kind of clothes you wear, what you should think about people, what you should think about politics, what you should think about the afterlife. Everything is dictated to them so that they don't think about what else is out there. And she recognizes that it's a hard way of life. She recognizes that people are often not happy. She still hasn't gotten there, that it's not a choice, because if a choice means you don't stay with your family by going to heaven and stay, if you leave, you leave all of this, or you leave and you go to hell, right? She had to disconnect from her mom because she felt like if she disconnected from her mom, she wouldn't be able to be with her dad in the celestial kingdom. So it's not really a choice, is it? It's a choice of damnation and fear and hell. And when you're coerced through religious fear and intimidation, that's not choice. And if you're told that you won't get to be with your family unless you stay there, that's also not a choice. I think she's there, but she's not ready to say it yet. I think she just doesn't want to offend the family members that are still in. And I'm hopeful in time she will be brave enough to say the words and to know that if she says those words, she's not bad. I still think she thinks that if she's not protecting polygamy, she betrays everyone. So Christine finally gets honest about what happened in her marriage, and this is a great interview, and Kody shamed Robyn. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.